Looking at our second semi-final as part of our finals focus, it is the Sydney Roosters coming off a tough loss to Penrith again last week, and Manly, who had the hard-fought elimination final win over the Bulldogs, second time they'd beaten them in 3 weeks. This game on Saturday night at Allianz Stadium, and a lot of talk around Tom Trbojevic, whether he will be fit. He insists he'll be there. He flared up the AC injury that has plagued him for a little while, but laboured through that victory, and he's going to be really important to the result. So we'll jump into it with our finals focus. Stats that matter, or the area that matters for the Roosters, is discipline. Obviously, intensity is very high early in the finals, and they went overboard at the start of their clash with Penrith last week. You just knew that Penrith would dial in completely and be rock solid and do everything they needed to do. And unfortunately, the Roosters, perhaps because of that head-to-head record where they're 1-20 in their last 21 against those top two sides, just bit off a little bit too much. So we're giving away penalties, then conceding a try, then another penalty, then turnovers, and just a lack of discipline in those key moments put them on the back foot, and they were never going to beat Penrith with that. And this week it's probably a similar scenario where they play a Manly side that's in form and riding a wave. You don't want to be dropping the ball early and giving them an edge. Key player, well, each game the Roosters play from here potentially Luke Keary's last for the club, and they really need that offensive cohesion. Last week it wasn't helped by the fact they couldn't hang on to the ball and they were turning it over and there was no flow in their game, but they have to hit the scoreboard if they're going to win this game with a fair degree of regularity and build some confidence heading into what would be a preliminary final against a Melbourne Storm side that they also don't have a great record against. But Keary's going to be a very important part. Given the injuries have banged around their scoring power, they certainly need him up and firing. So Manly obviously winners last week, but they've sat roughly middle of the road this season for missed tackles, and that's going to be the key stat for them. Every now and then, particularly against the better sides, they've just allowed too much flow where the odd tackle has been missed and it's gained metres for the opposition, and they really need to make sure they're on top of a Roosters side that would be feeling the pressure. If they're sticking those early and making them really, really work for their points, then they might just be able to plant some seeds of doubt in that Roosters team. Well, Daly Cherry Evans, always the one we talk about when it comes to Manly. Kick meters, number one in the competition, but also a very good short game. His ability to control whatever needs to be done within a contest, whether they're looking to roll the dice or whether they're looking to frustrate the opposition. He's such an important part of that, and we'll need to start well, and Manly will need to start well, and those two things go hand in hand. Well, the history of the two sides are two of the oldest sides in the competition, well over 100 years old. Manly have had a very good record head-to-head. Obviously, it's more about the recent stats between the two of them. The Roosters winning 6 of the last 10 and also 5 of the last 6 as the home side in this matchup. However, they have lost their last 3 semi-finals overall, and Manly's record when it gets to this stage of the season has been pretty solid in the last decade or so. They're looking to reach a second prelim in the last 5 years, and it would be interesting to see what that all counts for. Those 3 semi-final losses that the Roosters have had in a row, they've conceded 82 points through those 3 games, so it hasn't been a particularly happy week when they get to this stage of a final series. Well, just like the other final between the Sharks and the Cowboys, these two sides last met in round 21, and that was a shootout. It was a 32-30 result in favour of the Roosters. Imagine this game will be very different. There wasn't a lot of defence played on that occasion, so not a lot we can necessarily read out of it, but both sides did have their games up and flowing on that occasion. Well, looking at the predictions for this one, I actually think Manly might send the Roosters out in straight sets. I think they've found form at the right time. The Roosters disrupted a bit by injuries, and then last week's game probably knocks the confidence around a little bit. They're certainly capable of bouncing back and winning, but I think Manly might work their way into a prelim and take on the old foes Melbourne next week. You can check all of this out on the NRL Finals Hub at zerotackle.com for full reviews, previews of the other semi-final clash, and obviously stay tuned for the remainder of the finals as well.